Meeting to order. This is McCracken County Fiscal Court meeting, September 26, 2022, Courtroom D, McCracken County Courthouse. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Bottleman?
Here.
Judge Clymer?
Here.
Commissioner Parker?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
I'm here.
And Commissioner Bordelman, you offer a prayer, please.
Let us pray. Father, we just thank you for the blessings of this another day you have given us today. Father, just appreciate the beautiful day and the nice weather we're having, Father. We just pray for those in the South and the Florida and the Gulf area that are facing a potential tornado, Father, we just pray be with them as that weather hits there, that they be safe, and that all the first responders and all those who do the work down there, Father, will be safe as they protect the public. And Father, we also pray for our own first responders and all those who keep us safe. And we're just so thankful for them, and we're so thankful that as they put their life on the line every day, that you've guided them through safety, and we've had very few and no injuries of any kind. Father, we just pray you be with us as we deliberate the issues of this county. We just pray that decisions we make will help further the benefits of the community and make us a much better place. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first on is for the consent agenda.
It is ordered to approve the consent agenda for the September 26, 2022 McCracken County Fiscal Court.
So made. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Budget transfers.
It is ordered that the necessary cash transfers in the amount of $625,000 be made in order to pay county bills and payroll approved September 26, 2022.
So made. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered to approve the voucher claims register from September 12, 2022 to September 26, 2022 to show county bills in the amount of $359,768.12 were paid.
So made. Second.
Discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right, then we have several things under discussion. The first is a quarterly presentation by Bruce Wilcox at GPED. What you got for us, Bruce? All good things?
You know it. Good evening, Judge Clymer, Commissioners, Deputy Judge Executive Doolittle, and everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak to you this evening. As I was preparing my comments for this evening, I thought I've met with you several times over the past several months, but I realized it had all been in closed session. So as I was, Deputy Judge Doolittle and I were talking, we thought it'd be good to do a public presentation this evening. So to that effect, my comments tonight will cover things that since June 13th, since I last had the public presentation. On June 14th, we officially announced a project we've been working on since November 2019. In February of 2020, we were successful in working with BioWinTech.
I'm very, very sorry. I did not know that was
That's okay.
Sorry.
We were successful in working with BioWinTech on securing a $500,000 incentive package through the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development and KEDFA. Those incentives were recently activated, and it was time to make the announcement. So the project involved 40 new jobs with an investment of $10 million in the expansion and an average rate of pay of $16 per hour. Also on June 14th, we officially announced another data center or cryptocurrency project entitled Soul Miner. Last summer, if you'll recall, we sold some land out at Industrial Park West, and that sale was made to Soul Miner. The expansion of Soul Miner is in direct correlation with the expansion by Big Rivers and Jackson Purchase Energy's substation at Industrial Park West up to 100 megawatts. Upon completion of the substation expansion next year, Soul Miner will utilize 10 megawatts of power from the new substation on the property on the west side of Commerce Drive that's adjacent to the substation. Soul Miner has also entered into power purchase agreements with the Paducah Power and is currently operating a facility on Cook Street. All in, Soul Miner's investment in our community is anticipated to be $75 million, 26 full-time jobs with an average rate of pay of $67,000 a year. Additionally, on June 30th, we announced HHO Carbon Clean Systems. HHO is investing $6.65 million in our community. They will be employing 35 full-time jobs with an average rate of pay of $25 per hour plus benefits. HHO makes hydrogen-based carbon cleaning systems for diesel engines and patent-pending torches used for heating, welding, brazing, and cutting. GPED, we're on a fiscal year, and a lot of times we think of things on a calendar year, but GPED operates on a fiscal year. So for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022, GPED was directly involved in the creation of 191 new jobs with an average rate of pay of $55,000 per year plus benefits. That average rate of pay exceeds McCracken County's average household income by $9,000 a year, exemplifying GPED's mission of securing good quality jobs with benefits for our community. Also during the month of June, I attended Select USA with the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development in Maryland, just outside of Washington, D.C. Select USA is the largest assembly of foreign direct investment in the United States. There were over 3,600 attendees from over 70 international markets. So I was honored to partner with the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development in our state and actually be present on behalf of our community. During the month of July, Jim Moore started with us. Jim is our new Director of Business Development. Jim is the hunter-gatherer person that you've been hearing us talking about for some time. Jim's role within our organization will be to be out on the road meeting with site selectors and prospective companies, also coordinating and implementing a business retention and expansion program that will be working with Melanie Reason at the City of Paducah as well. Jim has around 30 years of economic development experience going all the way back to the Caldwell Lion Partnership in 2003. His career led him to South Carolina. He has family here in Paducah, and he was looking to make a move back home to this area. So I don't think we could have found a better candidate. We utilized the Mex Move group to do a nationwide search, and we're really excited to have Jim on our team and look forward to the great work that he will be doing. We've also hosted a few different companies for on-site visits. We've hosted a developer, and we were part of the West Kentucky Job Fair. The job fair was a great success, which I'm sure most everyone has heard. There are around 100 participants between private companies and not-for-profit and educational institutions. An interesting tidbit of information is that 80% of our local manufacturers have more employees now than they did pre-pandemic. That's a good indicator that our manufacturing is growing within our community. So business is good. Business is good within our community. Jim Moore attended the TBIC, the Transatlantic Business Investment Council meeting in Atlanta, Georgia last month, where he also met with several site selectors. And TBIC, we use them as a lead generator for foreign direct investment. And finally, it's no secret that EV, electric vehicles, and battery projects are hot right now. Trying to capitalize on the Scranton, Tennessee, and the Glendale Ford Blue Oval announcement, we are partnering with some other West Kentucky counties to put together a marketing campaign to capitalize on our location and our proximity to these markets. Our group is called Kentucky Cornerstone. You'll be looking at something to be rolled out here in the next several weeks to the next couple of months. So we're in the process of building the website, and we're utilizing Marketing Alliance on that, a firm who specializes in economic development organizations. So got a lot of other stuff that I can share with you, or we can go over in executive session, but we certainly appreciate the partnership with the county and the city and all that you all do for us, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
So 191 jobs in the last fiscal year, but since you have taken the reins, do you keep that number?
Well, I just happen to have it.
Well, you know, there's a guy with home run numbers we're watching. I want to know what yours are.
Yeah. So in the past 2.5 years, right at 3 years, GPED's been directly involved with 434 direct jobs. Those 434 direct jobs create, at a minimum, an additional 265 jobs. I don't have an in-plan analysis on the Buy Wintech investment, but it has to be substantial. So all in, excluding the in-plan analysis for that, it's about 700 jobs. $275 million of capital investment with an $80+ million economic impact. And there's more to come.
Okay. Concerns. If you were going to express some concerns to the county and the public, what do we need to do differently that we're not doing?
Sure. You know, in spite of what we hear in the news, as I mentioned, business is good for most local businesses that I certainly talk to. We are seeing companies actually pump the brakes. When you look at increased energy cost, mothballing coal-fired power plants, converting over to green energy right now, our nation's energy policy is not commensurate with the assets that are in place. We're mothballing coal-fired power plants faster than renewable energy sources can come online. That's a challenge for us. We've seen an increase in power rates. We've seen an increase in lead times for transformers. A lot of these heavy industrial manufacturers are large consumers of electricity, and it's taking upwards of 24 to 36 months to get transformers to put those things in place. So we've continued to do things to position ourselves, and we've been very fortunate. As I mentioned to you before in closed session, we're getting to play with the big boys now. We're looking at big projects that I don't think we as a community have ever been able to look at before.
But our inventory, are you satisfied with the amount of inventory we have with regard to available land?
Not at all. Not at all. Regarding land specifically, since I've spoken to you last time, we purchased an additional 18 acres that's adjacent to the Triple Rail site. That purchase has been made and closed, and thank you to the Fiscal Court and the City of Paducah for funding the Industrial Development Authority making that purchase.
So we're now over 600 acres out there?
We have right at about there's another 38 acres that we're getting ready to purchase that actually has about 1,000 feet of riverfront frontage that we'll be closing on here in the next three to 4 weeks or so. So all in, that makes us directly have ownership, control, or option agreements on about 800 acres at the Triple Rail site.
When you started, we had about 400 acres.
425, yeah. Yeah. So we've really done a good job of augmenting the land that we have available out there, because what we've seen is we continue to be able to look at these larger projects. You know, as you know, we've looked at $1 billion plus projects. Some of them, you know, need 5, 6, 7, 800 acres, or maybe even more. So we've been able to put parcels together, and we could accommodate a lot of large-scale projects right now.
The I-24 part, is that running low on inventory?
So we have one parcel there that's about 61 acres. That it's a Cracker Jack location. It is teed up and ready to go for one of these automotive suppliers. All of the utilities are already in place. The only thing that's missing is the gas line. It would need to be extended probably 75 to 100 yards. All of the water, sewer, gas, electricity, 100 megawatts right across the street. The site's relatively flat. It's within a mile or two of the interstate. It has rail access. It's teed up and ready to go for one of these projects, and we actively promote that site. We also have another 20 to 25 acres that's adjacent to the old GPED spec building that they built about 20 years ago, where Ingram Water and Air is. So the thing that I'm seeing that we're missing out on, we've missed a couple of opportunities because we do not have a 100,000 square foot spec building. One of the things that we're consistently hearing is speed to market. And if you've got a 100,000 square foot spec building that's expandable, that kind of puts you ahead of the curve. So certainly in the coming months, that's one of our top initiatives and goals, is to try to start doing things to put that in place.
Thank you.
In the past, there's been, whether it's real or a perception, of the relationship with the state economic development cabinet and the governor and others, and it appears that in at least since you've taken over, that has improved greatly. Are you finding a lot of cooperation with the state, and are they all in, or is there something we can do to maybe help make that better? Or probably if we stay out of the way, it makes it better. But how is the relationship with the state right now?
We have, I believe, unprecedented support from the state at this time. We have a wonderful relationship. We have a new Secretary of Economic Development, Jeff Knoll. He appears to be a wonderful man, of servant heart, good leadership. Christina Slattery's the new Deputy Commissioner for Business Development, replacing Jeff Taylor. We have great relationships with a lot of the project managers there within the state. And as I mentioned earlier, we are getting to submit on projects that we have never gotten to participate in the past, and they're big projects. So selfishly, I think we have a wonderful relationship with the state, even on projects that we've worked with them on. And when you look at the investment and the commitment that we're seeing from the state, I believe they're certainly willing to partner with us. I'm really encouraged.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
What can we do to speed it up or speed things up, or what's on your wish list with us besides a new 100,000 square foot building?
So we need to keep continuing to position our sites to be ready. We have clearing and grubbing that needs to be done out at the Triple Rail site. Last Friday, our Industrial Development Authority, we met, and I received approval to submit a request to start clearing and grubbing Industrial Park West, those 60 and 20 acres that I was talking about earlier. It's all about speed and making things happen. So I think we need to continue to position ourselves to be ready in that regard. And then we're also looking to explore another industrial site or a distribution and logistics park of some sort. So that would enable us to have a heavy industrial manufacturing site with the Triple Rail site, an advanced manufacturing site with the Industrial Park West, a mixed-use facility at the Commerce Park, or what used to be the Information Age Park, and then we believe a distribution or logistics park would complement it and kind of tie it all together.
Sounds like you got a plan. Go ahead.
And we need a Buc-ee's.
We need what?
We need a Buc-ee's. I think it's
A Buc-ee's, yes, yes, yes. We have had some interest from a large-scale travel company as well.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you. Appreciate it all. I'll stick around.
Let me ask you about the, you said something like McCracken County has never been in a position to attract some of the interests that we're attracting now. And I think that maybe is our biggest concern was we didn't have the financial ability to sit down across the table from a multimillionaire and even a billionaire and say, we will give you this land, we will give you these incentives, these tax breaks, etc. And we built ourselves up to a stable financial position where we can now do that, because these big projects, the bigger they are, the more they expect, and the more, of course, we want them. And so earlier on, we just couldn't accommodate the desires. And if you sit down with them, they say, we need this, we need that. And say, well, sorry, but we're really nice people. They're gone off to somewhere else. And so now we are in a position not as good as we want to be or as good as we will be, but we've made tremendous progress. And I think you'd agree that, I sit down with you and we sit down with the state, the local, the city folks, these huge project makers, and we can talk on a level where they give us serious looks, and we've been waiting for a little while now, and I don't think we wait too much longer, hopefully. But things are shaping up real sweet, I think.
And the state recognizes that as well. That's part of their support as well, is they see our local community stepping up with the investments that we're willing to make, the collaboration between the city and the county, putting together very robust and aggressive packages for these prospects. It all plays together and makes a difference. So I fully intend and expect us to win the scale project.
Thank you. We got Rob Estes, McCracken County Emergency Operation Plan, the EM Director. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Judge. I'd like to thank Fiscal Court for giving me a chance to come up here and talk about the Emergency Operation Plan. In emergency management, it's part of our job for planning and coordinating large activities associated with large events or disasters. And our job generally winds down to 4 different areas. And the first being mitigation, and which is basically taking known hazards and projects or projected impacts to our community and work to minimize the effect that they will have on our community. And then number 2 is preparedness, is where we undergo drills and activities, prepare for what we can and what we cannot mitigate or see coming. For example, we recently did a tabletop exercise with WKCTC for an active shooter event, and that was a pretty large scale as far as a tabletop event with other first responders and with the officials there at WKCTC. We partnered with Four Rivers and the gaseous diffusion plant and our rescue squad, Aries, West McCracken Fire, and we did a large-scale event in the game reserve or out at the on Rice Springs and different places to where we were had different type of exercises we're working there, and that was an actual exercise. So we do a lot of things in preparedness that way for different disasters. And our response is no matter how much we mitigate or prepare, we're still at the mercy of external factors such as Mother Nature. And we learned that last December. We have plans that are set forth in our community on how we respond to these various disasters. Recovery is basically nothing more than how do we establish normalcy back to the community? How fast and how quick can we get back to being normal? The EOP that we have for McCracken County and the City of Paducah is no way, shape, form, or fashion a step-by-step checklist for dealing with every type of emergency. It is more of a unique and it's a different set of circumstances giving us flexibility on how we can operate. We cannot set in stone how we will respond to or what we'll do if we have a tornado, because there's too many extenuating factors with a tornado. Is it an F0 or is it an F5? Where did it hit? We start this EOP with a hazard risk analysis which covers the 249 square miles and the population of over 65,000 in McCracken County. That hazard risk analysis says that no population is hazard free and where we live. And so we face specific hazards. And the first and foremost, the hazard that we face here is severe weather. We all remember the ice storm and winter storms that we've had, tornadoes, flooding, winds, extreme heat, wind, and like currently what we're experiencing with the drought. And then we have the weather coming this week, which has low humidity plus high winds, which will equal more brush fires. And so dealing with that, we go to where we're also situated on the New Madrid Fault. So we have earthquakes that we mitigate and that we prepare for. We're well aware of the transportation incidents that we had last summer on the interstate. That's probably a year that I'll never forget, everything we did on the interstate. Energy related. Today we even had a power outage. My daughter texted me during school from McCracken County High School, which she wasn't supposed to, but she texted me and I want to know if my power is out at my office, because we have power outages. And how long they last, and depends on how we respond and how we can get it back to normal. We have hazmat, because we have in this area where, with the interstate, there's transportation of hazardous materials up and down throughout our roads and our highways. Tier 2 facilities and businesses that contain hazardous chemicals. They also will send an emergency operations plan to our office, and we have a Tier 2 coordinator who takes and collects those. And so if we're responding to an event, we already have their emergency operation plans on hand. And of course, we have fire. We have a lot of older buildings in McCracken County in the city of Paducah, large commercial buildings. And during periods of, low humidity and dry conditions with gusty winds, they are more susceptible to fires. We also do mitigation on dam failure as far as with TVA. We just met with them last week, I believe, to where we have an emergency operation plan for worst case scenarios all the way down and how that would affect McCracken County. The EOP identifies possible incidents which may or may not impact our county. The mitigation is those events, who is to respond to the incident, the role they play, and how we recover safely and quickly. And that's everything in this exhaustive document that we have, and we update it on an annual basis. And the reason we update it every year is that a lot of people, names and faces change that are involved in this, from elected officials to first responders and to volunteers. And so we have to change that all the way around from our businesses to our utilities. And so we reach and change that every year, as well as we analyze our risks in this county and how they vary from year to year. Do y'all have any questions?
My hats off to you with all the volunteers you handle, and a thank you to them, because I know you have a lot. I see you out when you do big events and stuff, and it's got to be hard to pull it all together.
It definitely is, but McCracken County, I have to say that we just recently returned from the emergency management conference where we have emergency managers throughout the state, and I have to say that we have the best group of volunteers and the most professional group of volunteers anywhere in the state. If they had competitions, I would put them in competitions against any place in the state, including the Louisville area, Lexington, Fayette County. I would compare ours to anywhere out there. They're just a very, it's a different group. We have everyone from the old guys all the way to the young ones. And so we have definitely a more diverse group than anybody. And passing that knowledge along is so important. So it's a good group of people that we get an opportunity to work with that serve our county.
One thing I've always been concerned about is the transportation industry through here. The interstate highway, I've always been concerned for criminal activity that might come through there, and you probably do, but we never know what's going on up and down the interstate highway, what's in some of those trucks and tankers. The same way on the river. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that goes up and down the river. And I'm coming in here every day into downtown. I go past all those fuel tanks down there if there was a fire or explosion down there. And I know you guys work hard to plan all that. I also know you work hard to communicate and coordinate with the volunteer fire departments. And we've got great volunteer fire departments in this community.
Excellent.
And I remember when I first came to Paducah in the 70s as a reporter, I spent a lot of time writing about the conflicts between the Paducah Emergency Services and the McCracken County Emergency Services and all the fire departments, and they all were dedicated in their own way, but we've come 1,000 miles since those days. I know you guys work hard and train hard, and we're just fortunate, as Commissioner Parker said, that we have so many volunteers who are dedicated, and I know I get texts and emails from people who will stand out on the interstate when they had those wrecks and be out there for hours at a time and trying to talk to some trucker from Russia who can't understand and keeps trying to cross the Brookport Bridge, but that's what my GPS tells me to go, and all those things. But I know you guys really do a great job and work hard, and you probably have to bite your tongue a lot of times when you're dealing with the public who doesn't understand what you're doing.
Absolutely. And even though Chief Deputy Watson's laughing and thinking of me biting my tongue, but I try.
But I know you guys work hard and appreciate it. We all appreciate all that you do.
I appreciate you guys and your support. Absolutely.
Is that your Russian accent?
That's my Yankee accent.
There we go. I understood it. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. All right, then, let's see. Commissioner Jones, you want to handle the summary on the DC fly-in?
Yeah. So last week, the chamber fly-in was last week, gentlemen. And my hat's off to the chamber and their staff, Sandra Wilson, Molly, and Carrie. All did an excellent job coordinating the logistics of those meetings. We had in excess of 60 folks from our community go to DC, and what I saw was everyone working hard to attend all of the meetings and get their voices heard, and to essentially market our community. Interesting things, I thought, we met with the Department of Energy, and I thought those conversations had a different twist than I've heard in the past. There were conversations about new uses and planning for DOE sites, specifically ours, that were received with greater enthusiasm than I thought in the past. There were conversations that were erupting, coming from the infrastructure bill and some of the new financing that will be available to it regarding new potential uses regarding DOE sites and the existing infrastructure. We met with a lobbying group of different DOE sites called the Energy Communities Alliance, and they have a conference at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, and they began our meeting with, and we want to host a conference in Paducah as early as this spring, in part because of these new conversations that I feel like are coming out of the infrastructure opportunities. That conference, it's a good opportunity for Paducah to show off to investors, innovators in the energy world. Usually those conferences attract about 150 visitors. It's the type of conference where you get that synergy of accidental collisions of thought and ideas. So I'm excited that may happen. And then there was an interesting conversation we heard, a presentation from the FFA regarding airport grants and funding, which indicated some potential funding for fuel tanks, renovations of what they call fuel farms at the airport, which might open up some funding opportunities for the airport portion, the existing projects that perhaps are being funded in ways that are competitive with us, so that might be interesting for us. But I thought it was a great conference, and I'm particularly excited about the possibility of Paducah hosting the conference, the Energy Communities Alliance Conference.
Of course, I attended that, and then the DCA conference, well, actually it was a National Waste Management Conference, Nuclear Waste Management, hosted in part by ECA across the Potomac there in Arlington, Virginia. And so I went over there for 3 days, and, just like we did at DC, you meet the people, you make the relationships, you gather information. I guess one of the biggest interests, I think, to us was the potential reuse of DOE site property here, how the cleanup is going, what there is out there, progress that's being made. Of course, it's one of our very largest employers out there. Got to sit down with several of the high-ranking people there, several of the worker unions, and just making those contacts and those relationships, representing the county, is a strong means of putting us in positions to get things done. And so I didn't enjoy being away a week, but I really got a lot from both of those conferences, so it's certainly worth doing. All right, on item 5, we have one item that was tabled from the previous meeting.
It is ordered to approve the following 2022 tax rates as set by the boards of the taxing districts. Real estate first, followed by tangible property. Health, 0.03, and tangible property, 0.03.
Is there a motion to remove that from the table?
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right, remove it from the table. We've got, here's Kent, you're all posted up and ready to go.
Let me ask you, procedure, we removed it from the table, do we have to vote on it now? We just removed it from the table, and now we have to vote on that, don't we?
Oh, I thought, did we not?
Discussion. We just
Two.
did, now we got discussion.
To remove it from the table?
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't we? We
We
did.
voted to
that.
remove it from the table, but can we discuss it now? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I'm one ahead of you, never mind.
Yeah,
Just forget I said anything,
okay. All right,
like I normally do. Thank you. I'm sorry, I was
that's fine.
reading ahead.
All right. So Kent, so 2 weeks ago, we tabled this. It's sort of in general. Caitlin came and did a good job of explaining this, but we were not confident in what our authority was as the fiscal court, because there's all sorts of different statutes and framework for which we must proceed. And so we asked our county attorney to research that, and he did a good job as always. His mom was real smart. And so laying out what our responsibilities are. And so I think you guys got that information that so we our position is the health department asks for a increase in tax. We can give that increase, we can give no increase, we can give an increment in between. We have discretion in that, unlike we do in some of the other entities. So Kent's here today. It's now we've got that all squared away to talk to us about it.
We have not changed what we're requesting as far as the taxing district. It's still 3 cents per $100 of assessed value. And to give you a little bit of background about the reasons why it's been so difficult, I guess, for the Health Taxing Board to ask for this increase is because, they haven't asked for an increase, in 30 plus years. And we want to be good stewards, of the taxpayers' money. So therefore, we have not requested any additional money to be, put in any kind of reserve or anything like that. But because of the way the makeup of Purchase District Health Department, it is supported by 5 counties that are part of Purchase District Health Department and the 5 local health taxing districts for each of those counties. And the Purchase District Health Department each year asks for a contribution rate from each one of the taxing districts, and it's the same for each one of the taxing districts. Of course, the amount is going to be different because of the assessed value of the property. But the taxing district, or the Purchase District Health Department, has been asking for a 2.4 basically cents per $100 assessed property values from each one of the taxing districts. The tax rate in McCracken County is one of the lowest in the state. It's the lowest, in this end of the state. Going to 3 cents would equal the next lowest rate in the western Kentucky counties, which is in Ballard County. In Carlisle County, it's 3.2 cents. In Hickman County, it's 3.2 cents. And in Fulton County, it's 4.0 cents. Our sister county health department, or county health taxing district in Marshall County is like 7-point-something cents. So across the state, we have information that shows where we fall as far as being one of the lowest taxing rates in across the state in each one of the counties. So the problem is that with the 2.4 cents or contribution rate that the health department requests from each taxing district, that equals the tax rate that McCracken County has. So in essence, the tax revenue that's generated in McCracken County is actually a little less than what is paid to the Purchase District Health Department. So
When you
they're
say
operating
McCracken
at a little
County,
bit of a
you're talking
deficit.
about McCracken County Health Department, not McCracken County government.
Right. No,
Yeah.
McCracken County government.
Your
Yeah.
taxing rate.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's happened is that a couple of years ago, of course, this problem has been kicked down the road with the pension crisis, for several years now. And we were very proactive. Over 5 years ago, I did a 5-year forecast showing what our financial position would be in if we had to continue to pay, the additional pension that we were having to pay in at that time. And since that time, it's kind of changed as to how that's been calculated, but it's still an astronomical amount that the health department is going to have to pay for the pension crisis. It was assessed in 2020 at almost $45 million that we would have to pay back over a 30-year period, which is $230-something thousand a year. Now, the bill that was passed, the state would pay for 100% of that the first year, then 90, then 80, then 70, 60, and then 50. And so in that fifth year, then the health department would have to pay 50%, and the state would pay 50% for the remainder of the 30-year period. So, our budget, excluding some of the federal grants that we get for other services and other programs, runs around $6 million a year. So you can imagine, what that's doing to the budget. We had an agreement in a finance committee 5 years ago that the health department would do whatever it could to try to reduce operational expenses, which we worked very hard to try to reduce operational expenses. We reduced the number of personnel through attrition, and so we've got that down to pretty much bare bones. So it's like, where do you go from here? Well, we have to prepare each taxing district to have enough reserves to pay for that additional pension expense whenever the Purchase District Health Department makes a call, to those health taxing districts that we need money to pay for the pension. So, again, the legislatures this past spring actually it was put into the budget that they would pay 100% again. So we've gotten paid 100% for our pension 2 years in a row. So the 90% will start kicking in the next year. So we just want to make sure that each health taxing district, has enough reserves in order to pay for that whenever we ask them for that money. And we're not asking for additional money this year. We didn't know that we were going to get, the 100% again, from the state. But, in subsequent years, we will be asking the taxing districts for more money. And so they need to begin the process now, to help build up their reserves to pay for that. This wasn't a problem that we created locally, and we all know that. We've all read the paper. We know that the KERS system is the worst funded pension program, in the state, and is one of the worst in the nation. So, the state put in place, 2 years ago, that they would help participate in paying that unfunded liability, down to where they're only paying 50%. but they're pushing the rest of it down to the local level. So all the local counties, are going to have to pay for this additional pension. And, the consequence of not paying the pension is that you're going to affect, hundreds of past employees who worked for the health department, and it's going to affect their pensions. And that's in law too, that if we don't pay, it affects their pension. So we have a responsibility now that's been pushed down to us to make that payment to the pension system.
So in 6 years, we're gonna be on the hook for what, a little over $1 million a year
Right.
for our half when it's 50%. All right, so if we give you a 3% rate, 3 cents on the dollar, and you say that's for 5 years, 6 years from now, so who's holding on to that money between now and then? How do we know it's going to be held just for paying down the road, or somebody can't leave and somebody else takes over your job and they say, well, hey, here's $2 million sitting over here in the account. We're going to buy all new health department, all new cars.
Okay, so what the health department has done to be, again, responsible for that money that we have reduced our expenses by on an annual basis over the last 5 years, any additional savings that the health department has realized, I have put in a separate fund on the balance sheet that's specifically for paying the unfunded liability of the pension. Okay, that's the health department side. And I know that's not what the question you're asking.
No, that is a question.
Well, that's on the health department side. But the taxing district, they have their own account, and they only have one account. So, they could as well, set up a separate account, if it's the pleasure of the fiscal court that this additional money that's raised, would go into that account that would be specifically to pay the pension. And the court, could request that of the taxing district to establish, consider establishing a separate account, to be specifically for that, and for the board to take action to make sure, that they vote on that this is going to be specifically for that. I can't speak for the taxing district because I'm not a board member. I'm just the secretary of the board. So we could do that. And I just want you to know that there is a pattern already established by the health department to separate those funds out.
Sounds like an invitation to do that. But is any of this needed for anything else other than that pension fund?
Well, specifically for that, there's not been anything that has really been put in a planning stage. But it had been discussed by the Health Taxing District Board that the building is in kind of bad shape. And, it's been there for years and years and years. And, it's inefficient. It's not arranged, the way our services are set up now. Our heating and air, systems are not as efficient as what they need to be. So, it would be really good, if we could establish a building fund as well. And they just talked about that. But, I think that's another topic. And the most pressing thing, is the pension. Now, I will say that the 5-year forecast showed that within that 5 years, the McCracken County Health Taxing District's bank account would go to zero.
Because of the pension.
Because of the pension crisis. And so we factored in there, how much of a increase would need to be put in place, in order to fully fund, the health department's portion of that pension expense. And in 5 years, it showed that the tax rate needed to be at 4.8 cents per $100 of assessed value. So, the board felt like, well, and they talked, well, we could ask for the whole 4.8 cents now, But, you know, after further discussion, it's like, okay, we need to be responsible, you know, for the taxpayers' money. We don't need to ask for more than what is necessary, you know, in each year as this, you know, contribution from the state begins to get less and less, you know, down to the 50%. So, you know, and things can change, you know, from the legislative standpoint. You know, if we had done that and they decided that, hey, we're gonna pay 100% of it now, then we've increased taxes too much. So we definitely don't want to do that. So, you know, and this whole pension thing has been bounced around and kicked down the road, and you know, it is what it is today. But I mean, it could change, you know, how that's paid based upon some legislative bill.
It didn't. I mean, frankly, they're going to lower their taxes and put more responsibility on local governments. That's the trend for the next 5 years, and I don't see that changing at all. But is there any other of the taxing districts that you're asking to raise their rates? Or
I'm not familiar with what all is happening in the other counties. I mean, I know that there are some taxing districts, particularly like in the coal counties.
I'm talking about in the purchase area, and I guess I may be a little confused as to whether we're in a district with Ballard County, right? Ballard, Carlisle.
Right. Not yet. You know, and they ask for. We have a board meeting for each one of those taxing districts, and every year they ask my opinion. You know, do we need to raise taxes? And because their tax rate is already higher than the contribution rate that the health department has asked for, then there's no need for them to increase their taxes yet. But it will catch up, and they will have to.
You're asking, so there's 5 taxing districts in our group, right?
Yes.
You asked each of those 5 districts to contribute 2.3.
2.4.
2.4. Each of them are already over 2.4, so they've got to.
They're building up their reserve.
Right. We're 2.3, so we're under the ask.
Yeah, we're 2.4. No, we're actually at 2.4. So we're even.
Okay. We are the ask. Okay.
So we're not increasing the reserve in McCracken County.
You will be if we give you 3.0. You'll be increasing by 0.6.
Right. It will start. Give us then the opportunity to set aside, you know, that money to begin a pension reserve to pay for that whenever the Purchase District Health Department makes a call to them that we need more money because our pension expense is going up.
Well, it would be nice if a year from now, when we're talking, because it sounds like we'll have another conversation about this. I mean, it's not going to go away in a year. If you came back and said, well, we did the reserve fund and here's what it is, and it was this, and now it's more because of what you did. Is that an unrealistic expectation?
I mean, yes. I mean, I've already explained that that is a very strong possibility because if the analysis shows that we're going to have to ask for a 4.8% contribution rate on down the road, that at some point in time prior to that, there's going to have to be increases in tax in order to be able to make that contribution to the health department.
I mean, I get it, that this is not going to fix, this is not the last time you're going to ask for this because of this problem.
Very, very possibly it will not be. It all depends on what happens with our state government.
What you're telling us, I think, is that the 2.4 now, is that going into the reserve?
The 2.4 is being paid out to the Purchase District Health Department to pay for foundational services. Okay.
So the 2.4 is paying for services, but this increase of 0.06 will be used for reserve.
Yes,
is any
sir.
of the 2.4 going into pension reserve?
The 0.6 would go into the pension reserve.
So what's happening is the people in McCracken County, the taxpayers, are paying a tax, and most of it is going to correct what the state has screwed up in the pension system.
Not most of it. The 2.4 cents on $100 assessed value is paying for foundational
Okay,
services
for
at
services,
the
okay.
health department. It's just the difference between the 2.4
Anything above
and the
2.4 goes to
3.0
Okay.
that we're requesting. It's the 0.6 that would go into a reserve to pay the pension.
Okay.
I'm good with it, but I'd like to see it go into a special account. I'd like a year from now to come and say, here's what your 0.6 has yielded. And we're hanging on to it, and here's where we need to be or where we need to go.
If I calculated correctly, if somebody has a $100,000 house, they'll pay $6 more a year.
No.
Is that about right?
Pay $3 more a year.
Huh.
$3. Right? 3%.
Yeah.
And they pay
Well,
$6 more a year. If it was 2.4, they'd pay $24. And if it's if it's 3, they'd pay $30.
Yeah,
Is that right?
$30.
I think that's right. So it's not a big increase dollar-wise.
No, it's not. Per person, it's not.
But it gives them a head start on pension. And hopefully the state will keep paying 100% for another 2 or 3 years. Then you'll get a good jump on it, but maybe they will, maybe they won't. We get Eddie on, he's in good standing with them guys.
I think what kind of a rough calculation is that, right now, the 2.4 cents per $100 assessed value generates about $1.4 million for McCracken County for the health taxing district. And I think if you divided and I know you can look at it a lot of different ways, but if you divided the population, into that, then it'd be like $21.50 a year that if every one of those residents paid that. And the additional amount would increase that by $6 more
Right.
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's been good to have a health department the last couple of years.
It's been a real challenge.
Well, I read what you said in the paper, and I think you're absolutely correct. It's just very frustrating to see the state legislature bragging that they're going to reduce state taxes because they've done so well, and at the same time they're going to push this pension cost by 10% a year for the next 5 years. Well, I guess for a 5-year period, reduce their liability and put it on the counties to step in and pay that. And they're reducing their taxes and puts us in a position of having to increase ours. And so people don't follow that. They don't pay attention to that. But that's exactly what's happening, and it's just, I'll just say frustrating.
Just to kind of give you some statistics, the total unfunded pension for the state for all organizations, universities, mental health boards, health departments, on down the line, is about $129 billion. Okay? And if you took the annual payroll for all of those organizations and divided that into that, it's a ratio of about 14 to 1. So that's the state average for the unfunded liability by organization. I looked at some of our health departments. Some of them were, some of the other districts were like 14 to 1. Another one was like 20 to 1. Ours is like 28 to 1. Okay? So, what's happened is we've had 2 health taxing districts, 2 counties that have pulled out of the health department prior to my tenure here Graves and Callaway. And when you look at their unfunded liability, one of them's like 8-1, and one of them's like 6-1. So by the mere nature that they pulled out of the health department, they did not take with them their fair share of the unfunded liability. At the time, that wasn't an issue. Pension wasn't an issue. Now it's an issue. Now the law states that if a county pulls out of a district health department, then they have to take with them a proportionate share of the unfunded liability. So in essence, our 5 counties, and McCracken represents about 70% of that funding.
We pay for Graves and Marshall.
We are actually having to pay that pension for Graves and Callaway County.
And Marshall.
About $12.5 million is what I figured. That's just my figures.
And it's the Kentucky retirement system.
Yes, the
It's not the
KER.
McCracken County retirement
No.
system, or the purchase retirement system. So, I mean, we can get right down to it. I guess people understand it's a pension. So it's when the workers finally retire, and for whatever time they've put money into this, and they expect their pension. And so it's now the county's responsibility to pay for half of the state retirement pension for these folks. Else, I don't get it.
And that's based upon past retirees. Now our pension cost for our active employees, last year it was 10.10%, and I think it's gone down to 9.8.5%, something like that percent. So on top of the $2.2+ million a year, we're paying, almost 10% on our active employees too. So total pension expense is even more than that.
Well, so is there a motion to accept the proposal, raise the Purchase District Health Department tax rate from 2.4 cents per $100 to 3.0 cents?
I'd like to make that motion. I'd like to also ask them to put the .06 aside off of that. Can we add to it, or we need to bring that up later?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we could express, I think the best we could do probably would be to express that would be our desire. Like you said, maybe coming back down the road in a couple of years or whatever, and say we expressed that we wanted that to be a condition. I don't know. I don't know about the enforceability of us, and we'll give you what you asked for if you'll put it in a special account. Do you want to represent that you would do that?
Sure. I mean, that's not a problem.
Okay.
To do that. I mean,
All right.
it's,
So you
I
can
think
commit
it's just
to
being
you.
responsible. Good accounting. You're earmarking it for what it's for, and that's what it's for.
Okay. So it would be then on your representation, you put it in a special account, pension account, raise the rate from 2.4 to 3.0 cents per $100 property value, with the additional 0.06 cents going to a pension special account.
I'll make that motion. 0.6, yeah.
Did I say 0.06? Okay.
0.6.
0.6 cents per 100.
Any second?
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
All right, any further discussion? No? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, no? That carries.
On behalf of the Paducah McCracken County Health Taxing District, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for considering raising the tax rate for that.
Well,
I think that they're going to be very appreciative of that.
well, it provides it provides a needed service for our community, and I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Will you let Mr. Doolittle know when you get that set up?
Oh, sure.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah, when you start collecting the money.
All right, thank you. Let's see, where are we here? And then we got 5B.
Yep, we're on B. It is ordered that pursuant to an amendment in the bylaws of the Paducah-McCracken County Convention Center Board, the following board members will be reappointed with terms beginning July 1st, 2022. Bill Barterman, Andrew McGlennon, John Mann, Tom Paget, and Alexandra Sherwood.
This is on the table, right?
Yes.
It's under
Oh,
table.
yeah,
yes.
that's right. It was tabled also, so we need to a motion to remove from the table.
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
Okay. So all in favor of moving it from the table, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right. Then we've got the motion that she just read.
So
Discussion on that?
I know that have they actually adopted the new bylaws yet?
The board meets tomorrow, and those suggested changes, the changes you suggested are on the agenda to discuss. I can't speak for the rest of the board. I don't see it to be a problem. There's two suggested changes. I'll let you explain them, but as I understand them, one would require all appointments to be confirmed by the fiscal court and the city commission. And the other one would say that the bylaws related to the appointment and the bylaws related to the approval of the appointments could not be changed without giving the fiscal court a 90-day notice that change is going to be made. And I think your reasoning is it makes sense, is that a good percentage of their operating budget comes from tax revenue and a tax that the fiscal court imposes, so there needs to be some oversight over the convention center operation. And that oversight is confirming the appointments. But I'll let you state probably better than what I do.
No, I think you stated exactly right. So I would.
I'm practicing my argument for tomorrow's meeting.
Well, I would move that we keep it on the table, put it back on the table, and till the next meeting, and we'll see how it works out.
I'll second that. I mean, it's not any time restraints. I mean,
Well, the timing is, I guess, and I haven't read details, the timing is these appointments need to be made, but I assume that these people will serve, all these people are on the board now, and they all will serve until
so we're good until
another
next
appointment is
meeting.
made. So if it's not made by the 1st of July of 2022, they continue to serve until the appointment's approved.
Yeah, I'll second it then.
I'm for all of them. I just would like to see the bylaws first.
Okay. So we have a motion that we were discussing on approving this, but now the motion is to put it back on the table. All in favor of back on the table?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Put it back on the table then. All right. Then C, it's also tabled item. Oh, that's the resolution with that. Yeah. So, and it goes right along with B. Any objection to just considering it being tabled along with the other then?
Well, no, wait.
Goes along with A.
It goes along with A, and
Oh, it goes along with A. That's right. That's right. Okay. So, it's tabled, so let's pull it up. Is there a motion to remove it from the table?
I move that we move C from the table.
Second.
Against 5C.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. Now, do we need some discussion on it?
That's what we just done, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay. Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Court orders.
Court Orders A. It is an order to receive and record the executive order approving the McCracken County Emergency Operations Plan dated September 26, 2022.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that $1,500 be paid to Kentucky State Treasurer to return the unspent waste tire grant funds received for fiscal year 2022.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That carries.
It is ordered that the McCracken County Judge Executive be authorized to sign the Kentucky Employees Deferred Compensation Authority Agreement necessary for participation.
So made.
Second.
Can you, what is this? I never remember doing that. Do we do this every year, Steve?
No, we don't do it every year. The state sends an agreement and updates it every so often, but we've participated with the Kentucky Deferred Comp Plan for years.
For at least 30 years.
Okay. I just never remember having to do that before. Okay, thank you.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Resolution.
It is ordered that the following resolution be adopted. A resolution adopting and approving the execution of a memorandum of agreement between McCracken County Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Department of Highways, in the amount of $500,000 for the Stuart Nelson Road project. And be it resolved by the Fiscal Court that the Fiscal Court does hereby ratify and adopt all statements, representations, warranties, covenants, and agreements contained in said agreement, and does hereby accept the funds provided in said agreement, and by such acceptance agrees to all the terms and conditions therein stated. And the Judge Executive of the county is hereby authorized and directed to sign said agreement as set forth on behalf of the McCracken County Fiscal Court, and the McCracken County Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to certify thereto.
So made.
Second.
Any discussion? So this is the money. There's our big check. Pretty big amount. There's the big check that the Lieutenant Governor presented us with 2 weeks ago or so. This is we don't want to set a precedent of putting money into a city street, but since it leads into the sports complex, we decided it'd be a good idea to put some of our money, in addition to splitting it with the city, into the road development. And
Steve, does this agreement require how the money should be spent, that we have to use it to put in a bike trail or bikeways? And I know when the governor first announced it, he said it would include a bike path and center turn lanes. And
like all of these programs, once we design it, the cabinet looks at it and agrees or disagrees with it. I don't remember them disagreeing with one. What they did is the application that went into the state for the money, they just pulled the narrative out of there of what an ideal section would look like. I think we have some flexibility on what we're going to build. But the state does have a guideline as to the base material and the thickness of the pavement, the specific width of lanes and things like that. And since it's an urban section, they might want curb and gutter and a sidewalk on one side. But given the nature of it being a park and lots of people going in and out, we should be able to manage that.
because they announced, they said this should pay for a half a mile section, and I don't know how long that road is, but it's more than half a mile.
Longer than half a mile.
Right, it's probably a mile or so, but it doesn't lock us in to say that we have to put in
No.
sidewalks or bike paths or
No.
certain kind of lights or, okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Board appointments.
It is ordered that Wayne Elliott, Brent Hausman, and Carol Young be reappointed to the Planning Board for a 4-year term beginning October 1st, 2022, and ending September 31st, There's only 30 days in September. 2026, subject to further orders of the court.
So made.
Second. I'll move that we amend it to September 30th.
Thank you.
All right. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Amended to September 30 then. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Bruce is here. I don't think that we have any thing that we haven't heard from since our last executive session. Do we want to get any kind of update?
He says we're updated.
Are we essentially where we were two weeks ago on those projects and things? Okay. So we won't need an executive session then. A motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That carried.